Good afternoon, I should say. I'm Muriel Bowser. I'm the mayor of Washington, D.C., and I am here to provide a brief update and take your questions. I want to start off by thanking all the poll workers, line monitors, volunteers, ballot counters, the Board of Elections, and most importantly, DC voters for getting out and making your voices heard and casting your ballots in this year's general election. I want to start by offering as well my congratulations to all of the candidates who were out there. I've been on a few ballots myself, and I know how a candidate puts everything that she or he has into a message, into talking to voters, into turning out that vote. And I know that that effort has been unique in this COVID environment. So congratulations to those who were successful last night and those who came up short as well, because I know they gave it their all. It looks like we're going to have a majority female council of the District of Columbia, and you won't be surprised. That makes me very happy. We are also adding more, it would appear, African American women to the council, and as representing all of Washington, D.C., but certainly African American women make up a very significant part of our electorate. So I think that representation matters, and that we are adding to the number of Black women who are leading in all three branches of our government. So I'm very proud of that. I understand that the Board of Elections will be updating its vote tallies midday today if they haven't done it already. I know that they plan to. The last numbers that I have are from 11:30 a.m., where 231,000 votes had been counted, 231,698 to be specific, out of potentially 300,000 plus ballots. So go to the board's website for up-to-date analysis on all the votes for all of the races. Right now, we're also closely following the national election and expect every state and every jurisdiction to count each and one of its votes. And as hard as it might be, that we all remain calm until all the votes are counted and winners declared. You all know, of course, that the district will handily deliver its three electoral votes to the former Vice President and Joe Biden. And so we want to thank the DC Democratic Party for already planning for how our electoral votes will be delivered in the Electoral College. And it's a selection of women who were first responders in this COVID pandemic. So I am very pleased about that. So with that, we know that in DC, regardless of who wins, and that's the White House, the Senate, and all of the congressional seats, that we will have work to do and strategizing to do. And I look forward to working with DC residents on all of those things. So again, congratulations to everyone involved in planning and executing the election, to all the candidates, and of course to those who won. And I look forward to working with them too. So with that, I'm going to ask the chief to provide some public safety updates based on our response last night.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Bowser. I am Pete Newsham. I'm the Chief of Police for the Metropolitan Police Department. I was very pleased with the First Amendment assemblies that we had in the District of Columbia last night. They were largely peaceful in and around the White House. We did have a go-go truck that appeared on K Street for a period of time. Again, the folks that assembled around the go-go were peaceful. Around 11:30, between 11:30 and midnight, we had a group of about close to 200 that marched throughout the city. They were largely peaceful in their march. At the end, we had 4 arrests at around 5 o'clock in the vicinity of where the go-go truck was. We had 1 arrest for crossing a police line. At about 9:50 p.m., we had 2 arrests just outside of Lafayette Square. We had an assault with a dangerous weapon, a bat, and interfering with the police. That was all one incident where there was 2 arrests. And about 2:30 a.m., we had an incident up at the 4th District Police Station where there was 1 arrest for crossing a police line. The Metropolitan Police Department did not have to deploy any munitions. We did not have to put on any riot gear. We have a proud history in the District of Columbia of facilitating First Amendment assemblies. We've had over 1,000 so far this year. And last night was an example of a very peaceful demonstration that like I said, I'm very pleased about. I can talk a little bit about an incident that's had some attention at around 2:25 a.m. at 14th and New York Avenue Northwest. We had an assault with a dangerous weapon, a sharp object. We had 3 victims in that case, 2 adult males and an adult female. They all suffered non-life-threatening injuries. They were taken to a local hospital, and we could take any questions that you all have.
Sam.
So Chief, what about this? What else can you tell us? It's been said that they were a Proud Boy. Is that?
We don't know the affiliations of the suspects or the victims in this case, so that will be part of the investigation, because I think, as you know, if you assault someone because of their political affiliation, that would be a hate crime.
So you're investigating it on that basis?
We don't know. We don't have a motive at this point. It's much too early in the investigation.
Question.
So, Chief, could I just follow up on that? So, do you have any suspects, or do you have photos or anything you're releasing as far as?
There is video, so we're trying to put together a flyer right now with the clearest images of some folks that were involved. So as soon as we have that, we'll get that out.
And so the video, you clearly hear the victims calling the suspects Black Lives Matter. That's how they're referring to them in their video and their subsequent videos from the hospital. At some point last night, someone from your department told our news desk that in fact these were members of Proud Boy who said they were attacked by Black Lives Matter. So somebody told your...
Yeah, the only thing I will say about that, at 2:30 in the morning when our officers are trying to gather information on the scene, that information is preliminary in nature, and oftentimes, unfortunately, it changes. So all I can say is, after more extensive investigation with the victims of the crime, we don't know who they were affiliated with.
And my last on this, are the victims cooperating with you? Have you interviewed them? And
Oh yeah, we were able to interview the victims at the hospital. They've been very cooperative.
thank you.
Yep,
Chief, just one quick question. Sorry about keep coming back and forth.
that's okay. I didn't go that far.
A lot of the organizers, they're saying that last night was literally day 1 of a week-long set of demonstrations. We saw last night tensions got a little high. There's a possibility that tensions can reach that level, if not exceed it, in the next few days. What's the department, what is the city doing to make sure that they quell any potential acts of violence or what have you moving forward?
Well, I was around a lot of the activity last night, and I didn't feel like tensions were high. We had a couple of minor incidents that we were able to take care of relatively quickly. So our message is going to continue to be what it always is. If you want to come out and you want to exercise your First Amendment right, Washington, D.C. is the place to be. We welcome you. If you want to come out here and you want to break the law, unfortunately, we have a responsibility to ensure that doesn't happen, and we will take you into custody.
So can we ask about plans for tonight? Or parking restrictions, road closures?
Sure, the parking restrictions will be the same as when we began yesterday. So that's primarily north of H Street, up to about K Street from 15th to 17th Street. That's for parking restrictions. We don't have any intentions to close that area down, but we will if crowds form down there. And the reason we do that is for the safety of the demonstrators. We don't want vehicles traveling where people may be having protests.
And are you still all hands on deck? Is it still?
We are. So our plan going into the election was to ensure that we had enough personnel to be able to handle any demonstrations that did occur. And so for the foreseeable future, the entire police department will be working. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Question for the mayor on school reopening. Do you place any fault or blame on the teachers union for not reopening next week like planned?
Well, as I've said before, that everything, all the components of opening schools are in place except the workforce.
And do you anticipate bringing back in student learning at all during term 2, or are we waiting until term 3 at this point, or is that still?
We expect, once we have our workforce in place, to bring students back. Students need to be back in schools with their teachers, hopefully, but if we're not able to do that, then we will have some version of in-person or in-school building learning happening.
No firmer timeline as far as term 2 or 3 or when that might happen?
I think the chancellor has already communicated to families who were offered in-person learning slots that Dcps will confirm with them when we have personnel who can supervise their care classroom learning. And we don't have anything to report yet on future in-person learning opportunities in term 2.
And on the election, you referenced an increase in women represented on the council and African-American women, I assume. You're referring at least in part to Christina Henderson, who hasn't declared victory yet, but has a sizable lead. I'm wondering if you talked to Ms. Henderson at all since last night? Or?
I have. I spoke with her just before I came in.
Can you share what you talked about with her? Or what,
Well, first, I think that she is prudent not to declare victory until the votes are more certain. But I think my read of it, which is not official, is that she has a substantial margin between herself and former council member Vince Orange. I will hasten to add, though, that there's still votes to be counted, and so that could change. But I congratulated her on a good win. I told her I wanted her to tell me how she did it as soon as possible. And we just had some light conversation, but we plan to get together soon.
Do you care to share with us who you voted for in that race?
I won't. Yes.
Mayor Bowser, following up on the elections, you did share with us that you were going to vote against Initiative 81.
I did.
It's obviously passed, and I'm wondering, both from you and from the chief, can you explain to us, how this will be enforced or not enforced?
We can't. It is very, too early to talk about that. But we will look closely at the initiative and what that means. I don't know that we have much enforcement around it anyway, so it may mean very little.
And it's not unheard of for the council to overturn the voter initiative.
I'm not on the council.
I realize that, but would you support that, or will you?
I don't feel strongly enough about it, Mark. I think when I was asked about it, I don't know, maybe you asked me about it last week or so. To be honest with you, my vote against it has very little to do with the issue and more to do with how it came to the ballot. And I think that I believe in the initiative process. It is, and it is serious. It's a serious process when we put something on the ballot that can change the law. And I feel more passion or energy around something when I know that DC residents are the ones who support it, and in this case, fund it.
And if I could just follow up on your comment that you didn't think it's going to make much of a difference because there wasn't much enforcement to begin with, I'm wondering if you or the chief have any numbers on
I'll ask the chief.
how many times anybody has been arrested for this?
I do not have numbers on that, but we can take a look. And the mayor is right. My sense is that there's not a lot of enforcement around this issue in the district.
Thank you. And then, Mayor Bowser, if I could follow up on the schools.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us, I'd asked for this, and I think when you indicated that you would get us this information last week, the results of DCPS reaching out to parents about what they wanted, whether in person or CARES, what the results of those Do you know, or can you release?
I do know, I don't know it off the top, so I'm sorry, I will have to get back to you. But just to refresh everybody on the process, our DCPS, I think it came directly from the principals, reached out to their kids in order of a priority that was outlined by the chancellor. And they got to a certain point in making those offers when we realized that we didn't have any teachers who were going to show up to teach them. So I think my recollection is that it was about 50-50 of people saying they wanted an in-person class versus or virtual. And we had not begun making offers for the CARES opportunities yet. So I can't give you any numbers on that because those hadn't been extended at that time. And just one anecdote, I talked to a principal because we were having a meeting at the school who every opportunity for I think all but a few slots had been accepted that were available in that school. And I think that made sense because there was only one class per grade being offered. And if they're coming in about 50-50, then that would fill up all of the available slots. That's just one example. So I'm not sure how it played out in every school. Yes.
Mayor Bowser, you made it clear over time that you wanted schools to reopen. You stood down from doing that this week. Do you wish you'd done more to garner support for your reopening plan?
Your suggestion would say that I'm the beneficiary of schools reopening. Kids are the beneficiary of schools reopening. And I have done everything possible to put a viable plan forward for kids to get back in school.
And then following up on the council results, looking at what we have so far, it's not finalized, but what does it say about DC's electorate and what they want their council members to be doing?
Well, that's a heavy question. I don't think I can answer it off the top. I can tell you what my sense of what voters want the council to be doing is, and that's working together as one government to get the city back from this pandemic. And I think that they want people to lead, to be serious about the work that's in front of us, and to be fiscally responsible about how we get there. And so I think there's probably a lot more to be read into the results, but I'll need some time to do that. Yes.
Mayor Bowser, we're getting reports, and this is back to protests and demonstrations, but we're getting reports of certain groups planning to enter federal and city buildings if the election doesn't go their way. Again, this is just reports that we're getting from our station. Is there some kind of contingency plan or plan if these protests do get to that level?
I'm not really sure how to answer that in a more way than you've already heard from the chief, in that we have every worst case scenario plan. We have the personnel that we need to respond, and we will respond. Everyone has a right to exercise their First Amendment rights, but nobody has a right to hurt anyone else, to destroy property, or not lawfully, or not break our laws. So that's what I have to say about that. Yes, Sam.
Mayor, I was wondering if this was a first to have a majority council of women. So I was upstairs.
I don't think it is.
I was upstairs looking at the pictures. No.
Right. I think some early councils, they were frequently majority women, if my recollection serves, after home rule. But maybe I'll go up and walk around and look at the pictures too. I will say, and the reason why I made this point is when I first ran for the council, it was possible that there weren't going to be any African-American women on the council. This was, you will remember, when Linda Kropp was outgoing. She was the outgoing chair. And it happened that I was elected and Yvette Alexander was elected, and we were two. So now there are three. In a city like ours, and I don't know off the top how many African-American women are voters in the city, but I would say it's pretty substantial. But they're only, right now it's Anita, I think. It's only African-American woman, and now there will be 2 others added. So I think
You
that's
noted that, so this is like all 3 branches of government. Obviously, your branch, the courts as well.
Yes, you know that Anita Josie Herring was just, I don't know how they call their process. She was just made the chief judge of the Superior Court, and that Blackburn Rigsby is the chief judge of the Court of Appeals, and I get to be the mayor, and our congresswoman is a woman, which.
So what does this mean?
We need to elect women. That's a political statement. Certainly, I congratulate the men who are serving, especially those, and I think that there are a lot among DC elected officials who are feminists themselves. And we know that policies that support strong women and girls and families make the district stronger. Yes.
2 quick questions. One, I know you went out last night late to see for yourself. Can you tell us what you saw, where you were as far as the protests, the marchers, and what your reaction was to what you saw?
Sure. I came down to my offices here in City Hall after the polls closed, and I watched some of the early returns, and I convened a call with my public safety team and the chief and I, as we frequently do, and major events, just rode around a little bit in the affected area. What I saw was, I largely saw some people wandering around. Some that appeared to be more organized or engaged with each other were on Black Lives Matter Plaza. We saw some people walking through the streets going northbound, but I saw a lot of just kind of meandering. All right, last question.
And if I could ask, the pilot program for live music, I believe, expired at the end of the month. I think
It did.
Right. So can you tell us the future of that? Will you extend it? Will it end, or what happens to it now?
Sure, I'm going to ask Director Rodriguez to speak to that.
Thanks for the question, Mark. So as you know, the pilot program for live entertainment for indoor and outdoor expired on October 30th. What we found throughout the pilot was there were some venues that were able to hold events while others did not. Some of the plans that were submitted had to be resubmitted to DC Health to ensure that they were following proper public health guidelines. So in discussing with DC Health, of course with the mayor, we decided to extend that pilot for the existing incumbents who were asked to apply to the pilot till December 30th.
All right.
So I think if I could just follow up, December 30th leaves out New Year's Eve. So I'm just wondering, is that by design? I mean, are you now concerned about New Year's Eve? I mean, obviously I would imagine that you are, but it seems December 30th is a pretty specific date.
It's intentional. So we want to make sure that we're tracking the public health environment up until the 30th of December.
And so people should not expect to have live music available for New Year's Eve.
Well, we're going to see, right? I mean, as I mentioned, some of the venues were not able to hold events. And so that's why we're extending it to see how the events go and how our public health environment evolves until that time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.